All right. I'm gonna go with something fun. I think that even right now, even with all the buzz, I still think that have potentially a really good chance to be lower than we should be on Kyler Murray. I mean, you look at over the past 20 years, there's been
Love it.
58 first-round quarterbacks selected in the first round of the draft. Of those 58 players, just 4 have been a QB1. So already not great odds. But when we look at those 4, Vince Young in 2006, Cam Newton in 2011, Robert Griffin in 2012, Andrew Luck in 2012, the one common thread is rushing production. Andrew Luck ran every year in his career till last year when he came back. And then on a per-game basis, we've had a plethora of rookie running quarterbacks enter the league and make a direct fantasy impact over the past decade, some with questionable passing traits. Just last year, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, when they played, were QB1s down the back half of this back half of the season. And the ones that can do both, we talked about Newton. Dak Prescott was an ultra-effective fantasy QB. Deshaun Watson was the QB1 in points per game as a rookie. Just didn't get a full season. And you've got Russell Wilson, Robert Griffin, and Luck, who we talked about. Murray is one of those guys that's giving you both. He rushed for 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns. He set a collegiate passing record. No player in college football history averaged more adjusted passing yards per attempt than he did. 13 adjusted yards per attempt, the Kyler Murray. He threw 42 touchdowns to just 7 interceptions. He is a younger version of Baker Mayfield that runs. And Baker Mayfield made a jump all the way to QB Dynasty 2 in just a year. And then you talk about Murray, just like Deshaun Watson, is a guy that you worried about a little bit, but then just smoked Alabama coming into the NFL. And Watson did the same both years in both those championship games. High leverage competition, big leverage games, had his best games of the year. And then you get the marriage now with Cliff Kingsbury, and we've yet to see, a traditional air raid offense get transferred to the NFL. And, we had, some, Air Coryell back in the days, we had to run and shoot, but never has the offensive system of, pass first offense been married to the rules like this situation is now in today's NFL. And you look at the 10 seasons at the collegiate level, the teams that Cliff Kingsbury's been associated with, his quarterbacks have averaged 701 pass attempts plus rushing attempts per season.
Yeah.
Now, you get a little more play volume in college football level, but we should be able to get Kyler Murray over the 600 combined drop back plus rushing attempt in that dual usage. I just look at Deshaun Watson's first 2 years, and Kyler Murray, from a fantasy sense, is that type of player, if not better.
Yep.
I love it. And Ray, I think the only thing that is standing in our way here is the unknown, because we don't know what the Cliff Kingsbury offense is going to look like. Maybe the draft results gave us a little bit of an indication that it's just going to be 4 wide a lot, which is fantastic and just backs up Rich's point here. But then the other part of the unknown is the offensive line play from 2018, but it's drastically different in terms of the impact for a Josh Rosen as it was in 2018 versus what it's going to be for Kyler Murray, and maybe even forces him to take off and run even more, which just backs up Rich's point of the rushing production as well, because we've seen last year, and I mean, no doubt in my mind, Kyler Murray is a better player than Josh Allen. No doubt in my mind, Kyler Murray is a better player than Lamar Jackson. Colin Kaepernick, when he was able to be a viable fantasy starter week in and week out, because the Konami code, as Rich so puts it. Again, we're going to get that from Kyler Murray straight away, plus passing upside, plus a great offensive mind, we hope, at the NFL level. And it's just fireworks that's most likely in his future.
So I was really trying to find because I went with Chris Godwin, and that's just a cop-out, and we all know that, and I'm fine with it. But I was really trying to find a kind of like under-the-radar maybe breakout candidate. And
like
I don't
Curtis
know how
Samuel.
like Curtis Samuel, thank you. But one that might actually happen. And so I was trying to – sorry, John. So but yeah, I was trying to find someone maybe a little under the radar. I think he is, and that for me is Kenyon Drake, who has a couple interesting things going on. First of all, I imagine people are terrified of him after last year.
Correct.
So that's nice if you're trying to find some value, that post-hype sleeper kind of idea. And secondly, he's finally out from under the thumb of Adam Gase, who hates him. Adam Gase hates him more than he hates pictures of his eyes at the press conference. Adam Gase hated Kenyon Drake. Like, he really did. The Dolphins' offense is probably going to be bad. But you look at it and you think, all right, there are going to be some opportunities here for workload. Drake in that backfield, I think he's the best player in that backfield. Now that Gase is not there, hopefully we can go and see that. He does have Kalen Ballage. I think it probably will end up being a timeshare. But Drake has more experience, at least in the passing game, has shown more there. He could be that kind of player where he gets the passing game usage, which on a bad team, you obviously want that. I also think he can be more as a runner. And I think most importantly with Drake, every time he has been given opportunities, he's been successful with them. I mean, you look at what he was able to do on the limited carries last year, he was successful. You look at what he was able to do with the targets he had last year, he was successful. He just hasn't really gotten those touches. He's never had more than 175 touches in a season. I think the opportunity is there for him this year to go over 225, maybe even get closer to 250 if he's able to kind of soundly beat out Kalen Ballage. And maybe, with that New England influence, maybe it's just going to be a timeshare regardless. But even if he gets to 225 touches with what he's been able to do on a per touch basis so far in his career, even in a bad offense with a bad offensive line, I think that he can be successful and have a bit of a breakout season.
Let's keep it in the NFC South for mine. And by the way, it certainly sounds like the Bucs are going to go 16-0 this season if the start of this podcast is any indication. I'm going to go with Panthers wide receiver, Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel, yes. And I'm going to lay out the case right now. First, let me tell you what he did in 2018. 65 targets, 39 catches, 494 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Let's recap the Curtis Samuel story here a little bit. He's a former second-round pick, was drafted the same year as Christian McCaffrey, but really barely even played his first season, just notched like 115 receiving yards that first season because he dealt with a left ankle injury in mid-November. Now, let's go to year 2. He's prepared to have a pretty decent role in the Panthers offense, but then early September hits, and he has a small heart procedure that basically keeps him out until week 5, and he wasn't a consistent player until December. Like, he just wasn't able to find a role in the starting lineup because Devin Funchess was playing on the outside because they kept trotting Torrey Smith out there on the outside. But what did he do? Again, he went on to basically notch 500 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns. In those final 5 games, he averaged 8 targets. That was with a hobbled Cam Newton, as we know. And I understand that DJ Moore is probably going to receive a ton of love this offseason. And I think a lot of it is warranted, right? I mean, as a rookie, he basically led the league in yards after catch. But what do I think translates year over year more than yards after the catch? Separation. And do I think that Curtis Samuel creates more separation and the most consistently on the Panthers? Absolutely. And you talk about outside versus inside. He's one of those players as well. 333 snaps on the outside last year, 131 in the slot. I'm not going to compare him to a young Stephon Diggs. I will not do that with Curtis Samuel. But there are shades, there are vibes that Curtis Samuel gives off in this offense, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if he's the Panthers' leading receiver in 2019.
Woo!
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.